Hey everybody, how's it going? This is kind of a follow-up video to that experimental posing video I did, which I think got great responses. And the reason I'm doing a follow-up is because of some things that were said that I think are important to share. Aside, not everybody reads comments when they watch a video. Um, and even so, I think it's important to be said as well as some other stuff. It jogged my brain some more, and I figure starting with a fresh video, I think part of the things I didn't get to touch on was the length of the video, so here we go. Firstly, there's only one rule to posing your models, and it's not for posing them for dynamic poses, but it's building your models in general, and that is to build them so they look correct. Now, what do I mean by correct? Because technically you're not building them to look right, quote unquote, from the instructions of the tactical marine kit if you're doing leg swaps, head swaps, whatever, because you're not building them with the bits presented to you. You're bit swapping and kit bashing. So I say correct in that the model will be anatomically correct in terms of if he's got a left arm, it's a left arm. So the thumb, here, this is my left hand. So you want the arm, the left arm, to have a hand with the thumb in this kind of position. No matter how you twist the hand, that's where the thumb is, as opposed to the right hand, which clearly is different. So if you take a right arm and try to make it a left arm, it's just going to be wrong. So that's what I mean by correct, which sounds obvious, and that's really the only rule there is. It's that obvious of a rule. Other than that, all bets are off. Other than putting the left arm in the left spot and the right arm in the right spot, you can do whatever you want. And you should. It's your model. You spent money for it, or whatever, however you got it. It's your model. You're putting the time into it to make it how you want, paint it up how you want, and pose it how you want. If you want this tactical marine to be his arms up in the air, like he's either shooting into the sky or he's raising his arms up to do something, and that's what you want, do it. Don't let anybody stop you. It's your army, it's your models. You do it how you want to. But, that being said, don't be offended if people don't quite get what you're going for. An example from the previous video, the previous posing video, is the Armin model. I like him. I think he's cool. I think he came out well. And I think, when I look at him, I see he's doing some type of sorcerer's act. Not everybody sees that, due to the nature of his head and his arm and things of that nature. And that's fine. You know, it's no harm, no foul. Another example was when I was at a tournament, I saw a Space Marine army, and it was a Space Wolf, actually, to be more precise. And the guy, I think it was a Wolf Guard, had a Lightning Claw. And the Wolf Guard, it looked like, to me, he was doing like an uppercut with the Lightning Claw. And when I looked at the model, we got to talking a bit about the conversions and everything in our armies and whatnot. And he told me how he posed that model to be like a slashing down motion with the Lightning Claw. And, you know, after he explained it, I saw a bit. I saw what he was talking about, and no harm, no foul. Still looked like a great model. Still was a good-looking model, I should say. And basically, job done. Those more dynamic, unique, quote-unquote, poses that you're going to put into your army are there to draw attention to the model amongst the rest of the army. And as long as they draw attention, you go, hey, what's that? They're doing something different. I think job pretty much done. So that's first thing. Secondly, and this was brought up in the comments, dynamic poses. I'm kind of paraphrasing and just saying how I want to say it here. But dynamic poses are a great way to enhance the overall look of your army. They shouldn't be the overall look of your army, meaning the majority of your infantry should not be in dynamic poses, in my opinion. Now, there is an exception, and I'll get the exception right now. I saw an army of World Eaters. They're painted up as Chaos Space Marine World Eaters. You know, they're red, gory glory. And they're all converted to look very aggressive. Almost all of them are running with some sort of aggression in their upper torso, with either having 2 melee weapons, 2 bolt pistols, or, you know, the Chaos Space Marines, because it wasn't just Corn Berserkers. The Chaos Space Marines had, like, their bolter raised, and like a chain weapon raised, and most people were running, and it was converted in Detailed Army, and there was not one static looking model in it, and that was fine. It worked. But the reason I think it worked is because we have a certain preconceived notion with world leaders and corn armies, and it fits in well with that. If they were painted up, and if that was an army of Ultramarines, or 1,000 Suns, or even Iron Warriors, or Dark Angels and stuff like that, Imperial Fists, it probably wouldn't look right. It probably would be like kind of, okay, that's a little too much. But because it's world leaders, it worked. And it's not so much the color scheme, more so what we know about the fluff of a pre-established army like the world leaders. So that's the exception. And that exception is basically explains the whole kind of rule of dynamics should be there to enhance, not the overall look. Because this kind of looks weird. Not everybody should be in some crazy dynamic action hero pose. Posing can be subtle and it can be very dynamic. And the dynamic is there to really break up the monotony a bit and draw your eye to certain parts of the army, especially if you put it on display. And just really make the army look cooler. And it works that way. The model looks cool, the army looks cool. But posing your model isn't just about going dynamic. For example, I mean, this isn't the best example because this body can only really be posed one way, but this is a dynamic looking model. It's got his arms outstretched doing stuff, very much in action pose. Meanwhile, the standard tactical Marine of Assault on Blackreach is very static. Very like guard duty style pose. But you can take your standard tactical Marine without using any of the other bits outside of his range, meaning from a tactical squad box, now this is Assault on Blackreach, I understand, but if we take the tactical Marine kit box and use nothing outside of that box, you can have very different looking poses and very narrative poses without doing anything that different. It's all in the way the model is positioned. His head looking one way, torso twisted a certain way, the weapon either held up higher or lower, having the bolter attached to his hip and having him have a bolt pistol and a grenade, or a bolt pistol and all specs out, things like that. Subtle head turns and torso turns can really overall change the look from a static guard pose to a actively scanning, maybe he saw a hostile and is getting ready to fire pose, or about to even break into a run. With the same legs, you can accomplish that. You don't need to use other poses, or I mean other kits and other bits to pose the model to get a very different look. You can do it with the same legs and torsos and everything that you get in that kit. It's all about posing your models. Instead of everybody looking front and center, you can have them pose off to one side. You can even have torso twisted to the left and the head looking slightly to the right, like he was scanning an area, heard something, and turned his head sharply. And lastly, what you can do is, I forget what they're called. I think they're called weapon effects or something. They're from ArmorCast. At least that's the ones I know of. Do other companies make it? Probably. But they make little muzzle effects for weapons. You know, plasma, missiles, cannons, bolters. Well, not specifically for bolters, but projectile weaponry that way. Guns like that. Which you drill out the hole and you kind of put it in there and paint it up, and it looks like the bolter is actively firing, in this case with the bolter. And that's really cool, because with having your models posed look like they're firing, like this guy's not the best example because he's very not firing really, but if the model had the bolters held up in his head looking in such a way where he was firing and the torso twisted a bit, really all you need to do to make this guy look like he's firing, if it was a tactical Marine, is having his head facing the way of the bolter, maybe having the torso twisted a certain way, and I think he would look more like he's firing his weapon. When you have a pose that's clearly firing his weapon, at least that's the idea that we're inferring from it, and you put those weapon effects in it, it's now no longer, is he firing? It's yes, he's firing. And you put a couple of those models in a squad, or even have an entire squad of it, it changes the overall look and feel of the squad significantly. It can really enhance the feel of your army. That's not so much posing. It is a bit to get it into the pose so it looks like he's shooting, but it's it's overall enhancing your poses by adding a bit to it. So that's one other thing to think about. Aside from posing your model is adding bits. Another way you can make your models look more dynamic or more authoritative or elite, if you're going for like a sergeant or you're making your own stern guard, is not just posing, but using bits. Putting the holster bit on the Space Marine's leg, putting some grenades on his belt area, a combat knife somewhere, some other type of thing in Auspex. Giving him more gear, and it's not just Space Marines, but anybody, makes him look more official and makes him look more well-trained and elite. It's just a way we've been, I guess, taught through movies and documentaries and all that. The more gear, the more cooler he looks. Yes, more cooler. So that's definitely one thing to consider. And if you're playing like a monastic army like Dark Angels, the sensors they include for that will also be good. If you're playing Space Marines, Purity Seals, adding more Purity Seals makes them look more elite, more like a veteran. Just things to think about. It's not just posing a model, but also adding stuff to the model to help enhance the pose or just the look. But that's just my little follow-up on posing. Is posing important? Well, yeah. I mean, the whole nature of making an army is posing up these models in a way to when you put them together. Even if you're doing the standard look, that's a pose. That's a standard pose. But in my opinion, that's pretty much all you get here. Dynamic potions, not potions. I don't know why I said that. Dynamic poses. There we go. Dynamic poses should be more of a less is more approach. Unless you're going for a very dynamic Vanguard veteran or Assault Marine pose or a very in motion command squad or something like that. It can work as a squad overall, but shouldn't be the majority of your army. Unless, of course, like I said, the exception and the example there was the World Leaders army I talked about. So, less is more, in my opinion, and subtle changes in head posing and torso twists, torso posing and arms can really change the overall look of your model. So that's pretty much it. I felt it necessary to do a follow-up video, and that's because of the great responses that the video has gotten. So I thought I should do a little follow-up and talk about some things that I did not get to mention really in the other video. So that's it. Hopefully more videos that come of stuff in a quicker fashion. And until next time, take it easy.